Hi, welcome back to another video. I'm Gaby Triana, and today I'm going to demystify what is a witch. Stick around. Welcome back, everybody. So today I thought I'd do a very informal video just talking about what is a witch. We hear the word witch being thrown around a lot. We don't know what it means. Many of us are wondering, where did all these new witches come from? So I thought we'd talk a little bit about it just to demystify what it is, what it isn't, what it means to me. And of course, you're more than welcome to agree or disagree, and we can have a talk about it. So let's get started. So what is a witch? When you hear the word witch, you think of a woman with a pointy hat, with green skin. You might think of the women in Salem who were burned at the stake. You might think of someone who is a heretic, who doesn't believe in God, someone who's working with the devil. The word witch conjures up so many different images, and it's no wonder why a lot of people are confused about what it means. So if you take a trip through Instagram, hashtag witchcraft, witchy, witch aesthetic, you'll see a phenomenon. You'll see a lot of people dressing up in flowy gowns. You'll see goth aesthetic. You'll see black lipstick. You'll see women working with crystals. You'll see people working with herbs. Sometimes you might not see any of that at all, and yet someone will still self-identify as a witch. So in the past, because of stereotypes, people have always thought of witches as being women. But the truth is that Wicca is a word that means a male witch, and Wicca is a word that means a female witch. And nowadays, neither of those apply. A witch is anybody. It can be absolutely anybody, and I know that I don't need to define that for you, but it's just, it can be, you can identify as a woman, you can identify as a man, you can be cis, you can be gay, straight, trans, you can be any color. You don't have to have ancestors that come from pagan times or anything like that. It's wonderful if you have all that, and you don't have to have any of those requirements in order to be called a witch or to self-identify as one. All you need is your brain. So witchcraft can be a scary word to people when they hear it because they don't understand it and they have preconceived notions about what it means. First of all, you don't have to be Wiccan to practice witchcraft. Wicca is a religion, and they do practice witchcraft, but you don't have to be Wiccan in order to practice witchcraft. Wicca is the religion, and witchcraft is a craft. It's a practice. It's the art of manipulating energy, and anybody with any religion can practice it, just like any Christian can bake a cake, and any Jewish person can drive a car or make a painting. It's an art. It's an art that you practice, and that's what witchcraft is. So in old times, especially during the times of the rise of the Roman Catholic Church, which is a patriarchal religion, it was thought that any woman who didn't fall in line with the doctrine, with the belief system, was considered a witch and should be persecuted. If you weren't worshiping the one true God and following all the rules that the church has laid out for people, then if you were a free thinker, then that was cause for alarm, because as many people know, and many people will argue with me, the purpose of religion is to control people and control the population. So anyone who fell outside of that norm, who didn't want to follow the rules and form their own spiritual path, was thought of as a witch. And typically, women traditionally were persecuted more strongly than men were for not following the rules. That's just history. So that's how women typically got to be known as witches, although anybody can be a witch. So what is a witch today? A witch is anybody who wields their own power, someone who harnesses that power and bends energy and uses it in such a way to bring something forth into their lives. This is called manifestation. I will do another video on it another day, but it's anyone who uses energy, nature, their own powers in order to manifest a goal. In most religions, we see when someone wants to achieve a goal, they pray. They pray to God and they hope that this will come into being, whatever it is that they're wishing for. And you can still do that with witchcraft. With witchcraft, you can still pray to your gods, you can still pray to your deities, to your ancestors, to your spirit guides, to whatever you believe in, while also working towards that goal yourself. Because remember, you are a powerful being. So witchcraft is not the passive art of waiting for something to happen, but the active art of making it happen, making it come true, together with God, together with universe, together with source energy or whatever you believe in. And if you don't believe in any God, you can still practice witchcraft because, again, it's the manipulation of energy, which you can do all through the power of your own higher self. So all of this used to sound, or still sounds to many people, like just a lot of woo-woo. But science has been slowly and little by little starting to back up these claims of energy being all around us, of everything being made up of energy, and of there being something there that can be manipulated that we don't see. Remember, science is still in its infancy. There's still a lot to be discovered, and it's a little arrogant to think that, well, if science hasn't proved it, then it doesn't exist. Because remember, until we explain how something works, it's called magic, but the moment we have an explanation for it, it becomes science. So they're one and the same, except one has been explained yet and one has not yet been explained yet. But there have been strides toward all this talk of energy and manifestation and what's behind it, and quantum physics is one topic. Do a lot of reading on that because it's fascinating. And the other one is neuroplasticity, which shows how the brain changes shape, and the synapses and everything forms can change the pathways according to the way you think. So you can actually change the neural pathways of your brain to fit a new belief system or a new emotion. And so what you tell yourself on a daily basis is very important. But again, all of this is going to go into a more thorough video on manifestation, which I'll get to at another time. So for me personally, just so you guys can get to know me a little bit, and again, I'm going to try and keep this video to just what I believe in, what I practice. By no means am I here to tell you what to believe or what to think. I'm just here to try and clarify a little bit, because a lot of people, since my channel started and since my blog started and for a few years now, have been asking, well, what do you mean you're a witch, Gabby? What does that even mean? So I want to get to the bottom of that. So personally, I was raised Catholic. I do still believe in one true God, but I don't see it as a patriarchal being. I don't see it as a male father. What do I mean by that? I mean, I see God as more just everything that's around us. It's the energy that binds us all. It's what the universe is made of. So sometimes I will interchange the name God with universe and sometimes with source energy. It's all one and the same for me. Lots of things that I did take away from Catholicism that stay with me. I won't ever take down the crosses in my house that I have up. I see them, they inspire me. They're a part of who I am. They're a part of my past. But as anyone knows, when you grow, you take the things that work with you on your journey, and then you leave the things that don't work behind. And so I definitely have many aspects of Catholicism still with me, and yet I still call myself a witch. So go figure. So when I work with energy, and what is working with energy? Well, some people call it a prayer. Some people call it spell work. Some people just, call it meditating. You can call it whatever you want. It's all the same thing. It's getting in tune with your higher self. It's calling in any deities you might work with. So I might ask for God to hear me, or for the universe to hear me. I might call in some archangels, I might call in my spirit guides, my ancestors, my loved ones who have crossed over to the other side, anyone who can help me hear my plea and give me that guidance that I need in order to manifest what I'm trying to bring into my life. That's what witchcraft is for me. And that's what it is for a lot of people. Some people do what I just described, but also calling in the fae and fairies and dragons and demons. And I don't do that personally. I don't believe in working with demons. Some people do, and they consider that part of their spiritual world and that they're working with. But yeah, I was raised Catholic, so I don't work with demons. Even if my t-shirt says "Let's summon demons," that's just a joke. That's just a tongue-in-cheek joke for me. And you know, other people do work with darker spirits. I think that's okay for them. If they know what they're doing, they absolutely have to know what they're doing before they work with anything unknown or anything that is known to them but is of a darker nature. I don't work with that. I work with God, I work with angels, I work with love and with light, and I'm not doing anything dark over here. All right, so by this point you might be wondering, well, okay, Gabby, if that's what you say is a witch, I wonder if maybe I've been a witch my whole life. And guess what? Maybe you have. So I want to go over just a few commonalities that all witches have, regardless of how they practice, regardless of what they believe in. All of them tend to have certain things in common, and I want to talk about that now. So the first and foremost is, for me, if you've always been a doer, a creator, if you are someone who doesn't just sit around waiting for things to happen to them, if you are active in your life and you have always worked towards goals and you come up with goals and you look at them every day and you focus on them and you meditate on them, and you may not even know that you're meditating on them. Just by going through your to-do list every day is a form of meditation. The fact is, you're focused on your goals and you're working daily to make them come true and taking the steps towards making them come true. If you have that sort of energy about you, you might be a witch. Okay? So someone who is a doer, someone who is a manifester, someone who creates is definitely has witch energy. It's somebody who doesn't passively wait for luck to fall into their lap. It's someone who actively makes their own luck. It's someone who has goals, someone who works towards those goals. And again, this is getting into manifestation, which is the next chapter of this discussion, which we'll talk about in another video. But anybody who is hell-bent on making their life the way that they want it to be and doesn't sit around being a victim, and that is definitely a big part of it, is the mentality. You have to think of yourself as someone who is in control, okay? Someone who is in control of their whole lives. If you're the type of person who generally throws their hands up and, oh, bad luck happened to me again, I can't believe all this that just keeps happening to me, you know, poor me, nothing ever works out. You know, negativity can really affect your state of mind and can change those neural pathways that we were talking about, and can in turn, the universe sort of matches that energy. And well, because you're coming from a place of lack and thinking that you don't have much, well then that's what the universe matches up with you. You're a person of lack and nothing good ever happens to you, and that just, it's a cycle that just keeps happening. So the first thing to becoming a witch is changing very slowly, and it takes a lot of work. It takes years. In my case, it took about 3-4 years to change from a victim mentality to the mentality of someone who can change their life for the better through taking small steps. So again, we'll talk about that more in another video. So you might be a witch if you are empathetic. If you your whole life have found yourself drawn to people's feelings, you get easily sucked into their stories when they're telling you their life story or their sob stories, or you know, you generally feel for them. you definitely have the energy that that witches do harness, because that shows that you're in tune with other people. You're in tune with the energy around you. So if you can be in tune with other people around you, then you probably just as easily are in tune with nature. And nature is the next aspect or characteristic of being a witch that I was going to mention. Being outside, being near the ocean, being in the woods, looking up at the moon when you need to connect, when you feel sad, going outside, sitting by a brook, listening to the water, smelling the grass, feeling the sun on your skin. That means you're connected. You're connected to the earth. You're connected to nature. And maybe you've just never thought of that as being a witchy thing, but it is, because you're picking up on the energies of the earth. If you're someone who's always indoors and you're always on your phone and you're always on your computer and you're always on your TV, there's gonna be a disconnect. So try to get outside more. Try to get under that moonlight, get under that sunlight. Walk barefoot. Walk barefoot in the grass. You know, we spend so much of our lives wearing shoes. That's a layer between you and the earth. There's nothing like your toes feeling the warmth of the grass, or even the cool grass or the wet grass after a rain. So connecting with nature is an important part of developing your witch characteristics or your witchy abilities, because you'll be in tune with the earth's energy, which you need in order to be in tune with yourself, because we're one and the same. You might also be a witch if you are in tune with animals, or if animals come to you, or you walk into a house and the shyest cat of them all is the one that comes up to you and says hello. If you know what dogs are feeling, you know what horses are feeling. People who are intuitive, you know, they don't need to speak language to communicate. You communicate through energy. And so, you know, trees, even if you go outside and it's funny, people talk about tree huggers, but if you do hug a tree, you can feel it. If you're intuitive enough, you can feel it breathing. You can feel it exchanging information with the atmosphere. You can hear what it has to say. And some people feel so deeply connected to nature and animals in that way that they receive information. And I haven't gotten to that point, but I do feel very intuitive with animals around. And they're intuitive with me. There have been times where I've been screaming and crying, and Daisy, my most feral kitty of them all, will come running up to me, right up to my chest, and just look into my eyes. And on one occasion, she even softly bit my arm to get me to stop screaming and crying. So they know. They absolutely know. And you don't have to speak their language, and they don't have to speak your language. You're both energetic beings, and so you understand each other. You might be a witch if you're so in tune with your surroundings that you receive information from your surroundings. Now, not everybody has this ability, but everybody can develop it. So we're all born with it. You may have known somebody who, just by looking at you, can tell you what's going on. They can read you like a book. They can even tell you what you're suffering from medically, your health issues. They can just look at you and tell you, I know you're having issues in your marriage. It's uncanny. And it's uncanny to the point that some people don't trust it. Well, how do you know that about me? You must be a fraud. You must be getting that information from somewhere. You know what? Some people can just pick it up. Again, it's this energetic exchange that I'm talking about that makes a person witchy. So this outside person that we show others and that we see in the mirror, this is your ego, okay? The person that you're presenting, the person that you think you are. When someone asks you, well, what are you all about? And you summarize all these characteristics, and I'm hardworking, and I'm creative, and I'm intuitive, and I'm this, and I'm that, and I'm a leader, and this is just your outside shell, okay? It's not to say that it's not true. It absolutely is, but it's only one layer of who you are. It's just your outside layer. So on the inside, we all have our inner self, our higher inner self. And in order to get to know this person, and some people go their whole lives without ever knowing who they really are inside. And to get to know this inside part of yourself, you really have to get quiet. And that's probably the hardest part for a lot of people to develop, is that inner sense of peace and quiet. We fill our days with noise. Just I think of the Dr. Seuss, what is it called? The Grinch. Noise. We really do live with so much noise. We have the computers on, we have the phones in front of our faces, we have our jobs, we're talking to people, we're playing games, and our brains are constantly in a constant state of stimulus. Now, what happens when you quiet down? Okay, that's why when you go to sleep, you get dreams. You start dreaming, and your subconscious is trying to tell you things. And many times we end up ignoring our subconscious. This is another characteristic of a witchy person, is someone who is more in tune with their quiet self. And the way you get to this is by getting quiet. It's by meditating. Okay, meditating is one of the witch's biggest tools, because it helps get you to that point where you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future, you're not thinking of what you have to make for dinner, you're not thinking about your children, you're not thinking about your job or anything except just being who you are in that moment. And who you are in that moment, because the present is all we have. That's all we have, is this moment. Everything else is just a fabrication of your mind. It's a thought. The only thing you really have is this moment. And when you focus on that, things start to change. When you do it enough every day, things start to change. Information starts to come to you, start acting differently, behaving differently, and thinking differently. And this has a big to do with being a witch as well. So I bet you didn't know all this about being a witch. You thought it was just a lady with a pointy hat. So you might have heard everything I said and said, okay, Gabby, well, that basically sounds like anybody. So are we all witches in just different stages of learning? Yes, I actually think so. I think these are all abilities that we're all born with. We're just all in different stages of learning. Some of us are dormant witches. And that factors in, if you've ever read any of my books, that's a huge theme across all of my books, is latent witch powers, emerging witch powers. Finding out who you are, coming into your own creativity, coming into your own power, and realizing that you have it. So if you don't identify as being a witch, it may be because you just have never thought of yourself that way before. But you're probably more in tune with yourself and more powerful than you give yourself credit for. So witches are not scary? They're not dangerous? No. Remember, in the old days, anyone who behaved or had any kind of thought process or any belief system outside of the norm, outside of the dominant religion of the time, was considered a heretic, was considered someone who was dangerous because of their alternate beliefs. But it's not scary to have alternate beliefs. It's just your own belief system. A witch is no more dangerous than any person who thinks for themselves. And that's why I said that the main thing you have to have, the main characteristic in order to be a witch, is just your brain. So to answer the question, what is a modern witch? A modern witch is you. It's not the lady with the pointy hat. It's not a wizard who shoots fireballs, though that's just a symbolic representation of someone working with energy. It's just you. And so, the gatekeeping witches of the world would like to think that they have some special powers that others don't. Well, what they have are developed powers, but everybody, remember, we're all born with this, and we all have the ability to develop our abilities and to manifest and to harness that power within us. So everyone is a latent witch at some point. And so whether or not you identify as a witch is up to you. But at some point you're going to become wiser, and at some point you're going to realize your own power within you. So whether you've realized it or not that you have this power or